intelligence we captured at Decimus's base indicates the Banished are using something called the Cartographer. What can you tell us, Isabel?
The Cartographer is a map of everything on the Ark. That means Atriox could use it to locate key systems and weapons on this installation.
Isabel and I have been going over the data from Decimus's base, and we found a way into the Cartographer, but it's not going to be easy. The Cartographer's defenses make it almost impenetrable. The only way up to it is by a Forerunner elevator. If you can get access to the local Forerunner control towers, I can take control of the elevator and take us up. It's our only chance of getting inside.
We'll have to take it. We need to hit the Banished again before they find out what we discovered at their base. Get to the Cartographer and find out what Atriox is planning. Be careful. The Banished may still have traffic moving along the route.
Coming in now, sir.
Okay, listen up, team. You've all been chosen for this mission because you've seen plenty of action. We can't send a large force in without alerting Atriox to our presence. So I need the best.
Hoorah!
Hello everybody and welcome to the third mission of my Halo Wars 2 Legendary Walkthrough Guide. Today we're going to be doing Ascension, and let's get right on into it by sending our forces all the way over to the bridge. We're going to send Jerome here on the left hand side to go gather some resources, while our main force, the Cyclops and the Warthogs, are going to go up the right hand side, gather some resources as well, where Jerome will just basically kind of be on his own gathering some resources while during the little fork sections. This beginning part, fairly simple, not really a lot going on. We just basically take all of our forces to the end here. Jerome just goes around, gathers resources, where the Cyclops and the Warthogs kind of just vibe and just do their own thing. While Jerome is gathering some supplies over here, we're going to be making sure that he goes over and grabs some other ones, while our Warthogs and our Cyclops gather some other ones. We're going to send Jerome all the way up to the front, where our other forces are going to be sitting in the back, and then we're going to be starting this little cutscene here. Now, you want to lead with your Cyclops, and I would prefer that you would wait with Jerome, but it could take a little longer. We're going to be using our Warthog's abilities here, and then we're going to be using these Cyclops and these Warthogs to gather that Phoenix log, as well as get those other resources. Jerome, on the other hand, will be using his special ability to get up here, and then we'll just utilize it again to hijack the Wraith. Now we're going to be getting the supply silo here, get some extra resources. Gets you a nice little, like, I believe extra 90, so it's going to be pretty important to grab, because we're going to be utilizing those resources later on when we get our base. We're going to make sure that we wait to use our restoration drones. Once we get this Wraith, we're going to activate the light bridge. We're going to make sure that we take down these enemies first before our friendlies cross. You could elect to destroy those two augmented extractors before you, not augmented, but the regular power extractors. But once you take down but I would recommend you take it down before. That way it's only the hunters once you go across the bridge that you take out. So taking out those extractors you can choose to do or not do. I was hoping to make sure that I was able to get these Warthogs microed away from these hunters. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out like that. But the main point is to take down these hunters as fast as you possibly can. I ended up utilizing the ram ability to try to take out these hunters, and it did end up making me lose one of these Cyclops because I wasn't paying attention as much as I should have to what was going on around me. But it did let me have a few Cyclops still remaining before I was able to get my base. Now, you could use this time to send your Warthog ahead, send Jerome ahead, send some of these Cyclops ahead, and clear out all that stuff before you get your base. That way, you are able to basically gather all those resources early, and that way you're only focusing on one thing. However, I would like to keep everybody, if you have your squads low health like I do, you want to make sure that they're all pretty much together. So as soon as you're able to build that fire base, build it. That way you're spending more time building your base rather than spending more time microing something that you basically can't control at this point. So the reason why I say you can't control it is that essentially you have a limited amount of resources before you're able to build that base. If you spend all those resources utilizing restoration drones or something like that, you're going to be put in a position that is really, really difficult to handle. Not to mention the game just simply doesn't let you move on until you build your base. Now, once you have your base, you want to build your generator first. You want to build your generator first, that way you have more time building, getting resources, like, for an example, your generator, your power resource. That is your main focus, because in terms of upgrades, it only takes power. So you want to make sure that you have your power ready for you. Now, while your base is getting built, you will be utilizing your forces and getting like the supply silos and stuff like that. You probably should heal your forces before you fight. In any case, if you are in a position where your forces are in pretty good shape, you want to save that heal and repair for later after this engagement. Now, while this engagement is going on, you should build the rest of your plots. Now, you should be rocking an air pad as well as a barracks. I accidentally clicked an air pad here, but in a few moments, you'll see me recycle my second air pad and build a barracks instead, because we are going to be utilizing a strategy known as the Cyclops Hornet strategy. Now, the Hornets on this map will be utilized as a mobile force, whereas the Cyclops, we will be garrisoning them so we can fight, for example, ghosts, brute choppers, as well as wraiths. They are your main defense whenever you come into dealing with any force that is near any of your mini bases, power, or your control towers. Because remember, the main objective for this mission is to make sure that you hold three towers, while that way you can unlock the Forerunner elevator to get to the cartographer. Now, we want to make sure that we fight all these wraiths, make sure that they're knocked out of the way as fast as humanly possible. You want to make sure that they're gone, and like, if you can, try to take down the little banished mini bases as well. That way you get the mini bases earlier on. Now, while this is all going on, you want to make sure that you get some Hornets pumped out, and you also want to upgrade your supply pads to heavy supply pads. The more we get resources, the faster we get resources, the faster we're able to complete this mission. Now, you want to make sure that your base defenses are all up and running as well. You want to also make sure that you're getting Hornets out before you get any Cyclops out. You also want to make sure that you also want to remember that this is the first mission in which you're able to upgrade your infantry, your air, or your vehicles. You're able to upgrade to vehicle level 1, infantry level 1, or air level 1. So any one of those is going to make your forces much better off in terms of the fight, for this mission. Now, we want to complete some of the bonus objectives, that way we can get a gold medal. I try my best every single video to try to get you guys that gold medal, and this is no different. So we're going to send our forces up here, try to clear out some of these grunt squads here. Got that one, got the second one coming up, and then there's a third grunt squad that you want to take out before you move on and take out these augmented extractors. Now we're going to micro our fourth low hornet away, and then we're going to basically have a little task for each one of these hornets. There's 4 extractors, which is why we brought 4 hornets. You want to bring 4 hornets, that way you can target each individual extractor on their own. Now, at your home base, you're going to just be continuously building extractors. There are 6 garrison towers that you need, or garrison areas that you need to focus on. So that means you need to build 6 Cyclops. If you don't build 6 Cyclops, you're going to be in for a rough awakening when you realize that one of your mini bases, or God forbid one of your towers, is taken down. It is unfortunate if that happens. I would recommend, if you see one of your Cyclops die, you need to replenish them as soon as possible. You need to make sure that your Cyclops are very much ready to handle any and all enemies. Now, while you are fighting in the hidden area, which is the hidden objective, some of the enemies from the Banished will come and try to quote-unquote save their base, where you will just sit there and let your turrets handle the rest. So it's just a bunch of grunt squads. It's completely fine if you just sit at your base, let the turrets do the work. You don't need to do anything special. Just make sure that you pump out your units and just kind of do what you've always been doing. Now once you take down the hidden facility, that is the optional objective, you can bring all your forces back, and then you can start to basically make your way around the entire map. Going to continuously pump out some Hornets. Again, remember, you do need 6 Cyclops. As soon as you have 1, you're able to move out and make sure that you can start doing some damage. Now again, the Cyclops is an anti-vehicle unit, so it does help you out by having them, especially for this mission. The Hornet is very mobile. You want to make sure that you pump them out because they are going to be able to go from point A to point B on the map extraordinarily quickly. You also want to make sure that you are very aware of when the enemies start to use their special abilities. For example, that plasma beam from the ship. Your Hornets are able to outrun that beam. You want to make sure that you are microing effectively. If you do not micro effectively, you will lose Hornets needlessly. I cannot stress this enough. You will take longer on this mission if you do not micro your Hornets. Unfortunately, the Banished have an ability that prevents you from moving with your Hornets, and it disables them for a time. It doesn't do too much damage, but it does disable them, putting you in a position where the rock, paper, scissors, basically the rock, paper, scissors way that this game is like basically made is going to be able to screw you over. It is unfortunate, and it does do a lot of damage, especially if the enemy are using a bunch of grunt squads, because those are the counter to Hornets. So as you saw earlier on, I did get Jerome out of his Wraith. He is the only infantry that you will have to maneuver around the map to take any like power node or control tower or anything like that. So he's going to be your main, your guy basically. He's going to be the one you want to focus on. He's going to just make sure that he takes everything. Your Cyclops are going to be in the garrison. They can take stuff. They are able to take towers. They are able to do all that stuff. But you need to make sure you have a nice beefy unit in the garrison. Yes, the Spartan is that beefy unit. However, it is very important and imperative for you to have your Spartan with you because they also are able to dish out the most damage. Your Cyclops are just basically there to handle any damage that you're able to put out until your Hornets can get there. Unlike Marines, who are very, very weak, Cyclops are very, very strong. They are much better and oriented around damage from vehicles. They're much more oriented in for damage around any kind of infantry unit, except for the elite squad. So long as the elite squad does not come out, your Cyclops are the best bet you have against any enemy in this mission. Now, good news for you, there's no elite squads in this mission. You don't have to worry about them. There's only grunt squads, brute choppers, ghosts, or wraiths. There's not really much anything else other than these little grunt squads here that are the suicide grunts. You don't want to have any units nearby, that's why I focused them. But those are the only real suicide grunts that you deal with the entire mission. So long as you focus on making sure that your forces are ready for it. Now we're going to be sending our Hornets. While Jerome is capturing that objective, we're going to send our Hornets and that Cyclops down to go capture that objective. Now, as you notice, I am focusing on getting my units up first before I do anything of the sort like, I don't know, getting air level 1 or air level or infantry level 1 or something like that. Now, you're in a position where whenever you see the enemy utilize both of their abilities like this, number one, it's a really poor use of ability, and number two, you are in a very good position here. When you see the enemy utilize both of their abilities, you know that they're still on a timer. Even if the enemy is, even if you're on legendary difficulty, which this is, you're going to be in a very good position because the enemy cannot utilize stuff like their plasma bombardment on you more than once every few minutes. So make sure that you utilize that to your advantage. Unfortunately for me, not only did they utilize all their abilities on me, they also sent a large wave after me. So this is not a very good display of micro, or basically it's not a very good display of being able to handle a kind of like a snafu, you know what I mean? You want to make sure that you are on top of this. If you see an entire squad coming after you, like you saw earlier on, where you see the plasma bombardment, you saw my Hornets get disabled, you saw a gigantic group of grunt squads, you want to make sure that you have the forces ready and dispersed. You don't want to keep them all clumped up. This is what micro is important for. If you don't have good micro, you will be put in a position where I am, where I'm having to rely on my macro to get my Hornets out fast. Unfortunately for me, my macro is garbage at this point in time. You want to make sure you have good amount of air pads and are able to replenish your forces. This is also what air level 1 would have been great for. Now, you could have handled this very safely, got air level 1, you could have waited until you had all the forces necessary, and you still would most likely get a gold. However, for me, I'm trying to get as close to part-time as possible while creating a good guide. So you want to make sure that you are trying your best to be active around the map. Notice how I'm always making sure I'm going back to my base. I'm always making sure that I'm doing something around the map. Now, the one thing that I'm realizing, since this is secondhand commentary and I'm watching this on replay, why am I letting my resources get too much? You want to make sure that you are reasonably keeping your resources low, so much so that you are also being efficient with those resources. Now, I kept a small amount of forces nearby, so in any case something like that happened where the banished abilities come back into play, I wanted to make sure that my forces were not getting destroyed. Now, I would have gotten air level 1 and infantry level 1 earlier, but I was in a position where I wasn't concentrating on my micro, so this set me back. So if you consider the part-time on this mission already, the part-time could have been shorter. So that is something to take into account. Not to mention Jerome is down, so we also need to go save him. We're in a position where the AI is currently winning. We want to make sure that we get our forces out, and we want to make sure that we are also very, very conscientious of what's going on. Now, rather than go and basically save Jerome, we want to make sure that we're doing as much as we can to try to limit the enemy. Now, they just use their plasma bombardment, and remember what I said earlier, that the Hornets are faster than that bombardment. You want to make sure that you utilize your mobility against it. That by itself is a counter to the banished. Remember, fast units beat most of the banished abilities. Unfortunately, if they decide to disable your units and then use a plasma bombardment, you are basically screwed. You want to make sure that you are aware of that. You want to keep that in the back of your mind whenever you're playing on Legendary difficulty in Halo Wars 2. The enemy can and will screw you over whenever they get the chance. Now, when you're taking out this mini base at the in the middle of the map here, you want to take down the turrets first. The Hornets are able to handle Hunter damage very well. Remember, Hunters are not anti-air; they are anti-vehicle, which is why I chose the Hornet Cyclops combo. The Cyclops are doing a very good job because they themselves have longer range than most of the banished forces. So you want to make sure you utilize that to your advantage. Now notice here, I'm making sure that I'm focusing on getting those Cyclops into those garrison areas. You saw Jerome go to go take control Tower B. You saw that Cyclops earlier handling that enemy near control Tower C. This is why we utilize what we do. And you also want to make sure that you are utilizing your abilities in a way that makes sense. If you see a gigantic wave of enemies coming at you, it makes sense to just use archer missiles to take them out. Now, unfortunately, the enemies here just they're relentless with their abilities. I get it. You want to make sure that you are on top of it. You are in control of all this. You are the one witnessing it all. You cannot panic when you see this stuff happening. You need to be in control. If you see an entire wave of enemies going up to the middle of the map, don't panic. Send your Cyclops. into both of the garrison areas that you have already garrisoned and make sure that you hold it. You cannot afford to lose territory. You need to be on top of it. Now over here, we're going to be sending our Hornets and Spartan Jerome over to Control Tower A. That way we can get this mission in a nice little area for us. There's a nice little wave of units. We're going to toss down the restoration drones on top of our Hornets. Remember, restoration drones heal faster than the damage output of an enemy, so you want to make sure that you utilize restoration drones when you get into a tough situation like this. It is also a very good idea to utilize the Spartan ability to try to clear out some enemies. You want to make sure that you're not utilizing Spartan Jerome just like an idle, like these Hornets here. The Hornets don't have a special ability. You want to make sure that the Hornets are being utilized, that Spartan Jerome, since he has a special ability, is being utilized in a way that basically is microed like he has that special ability, if that makes sense. Now, whenever you see an opportunity to go and save one of your objectives, so for an example, for me, it was Control Tower B. Control Tower B got hit, and now I have to save Control Tower B. This is one of those reasons why we have garrison units. Now, the reason why I don't put garrison units on Tower B is twofold. Number one, there is an enemy base there, and I wanted to make sure this video wasn't already too long. I wanted to make sure that I didn't focus on taking down that base or having to replenish my Cyclops every single time. Yes, it is a smart strategy to kind of postpone any kind of to basically try to slow down the enemy. However, it does not do anything to your combat efficiency. And remember, the enemies already micro their units, and as soon as your Cyclops dies, guess who gets to take over that garrison tower? The enemy. And your Hornets are already having a difficult time, as you can see here, trying to take out those enemies in the garrison tower. And remember, infantry in this game, in terms of the rock, paper, scissors model, infantry beat air, air beats vehicles, and vehicle beat infantry. You need to be aware of that as well whenever you play on Legendary. There is a balance system, and you need to be on top of that balance. Now, trying to make sure our macro is good, we decide to utilize both of our air pads to make sure that we are in a good spot. Going to make sure that we save our Cyclops here, and then as well as utilize some of these garrison towers to kind of like block off the enemy. As for Jerome, we are going to send him to go take Tower A. The Hornets' job, as I said earlier, is to defend towers B and C, or whatever towers that you have taken. Jerome's job is to take towers that you have not taken. Some of the Hornets' jobs are to definitely help Jerome take a tower. For an example, these Hornets here right now are going to help Jerome take this to take Tower A. Also, what we're going to do is make sure that we take all of these mini bases. We do not want any way for the enemy to get a different front on us. We want to make sure the enemy is always in front of us, never to the side of us. We do not want to give them an opportunity to cut us off. That is not good strategy, and that does not make for a good, basically a good attack or defense for that matter. You want to make sure you're on top of that. Now, once we take this mini base, we have all three of them, so we are in a good position for that. And while we wait for Jerome to take Tower 3, we are going to take a banished base while we are waiting. We want to make sure that we take out as many of the banished as possible, so it is only one front that they are coming from. As I said earlier, we want to make sure that they only ever go for Tower B. If they go for Tower C or if they go for Tower A, that is unfortunate, but we are able to react because they have such smaller forces, and basically we want to make sure that we're on top of that. Now, for the third time, you will be utilizing your Archer missiles. That allows you to beat the bonus objective, and it does do a lot of damage, so we do want to make sure that we're on top of that. Unfortunately, we were in the middle of a cutscene when that plasma beam came down, but as soon as you send Spartan Jerome over to the middle, that is the end of the mission, If that is Ascension on Legendary difficulty. We didn't do anything outright wrong. We did everything right within the strategy and ended up getting a gold medal. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, please leave a like down below. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys next time for 130. Thank you guys for watching.